Hi everyone, my name is Abby Cengel and I'm here today to present Somehow We Manage, Overcoming Student Employee Challenges for the ACRL Delaware Valley Chapter Fall 2020 program. I work at Falvey Memorial Library at Villanova University in the Access Services Department. We have three separate areas in our department: the service desk, interlibrary loan processing, and shelving. So normally, before COVID, we employed over 40 student employees, and we have 6 full-time staff. So when you think about working with student employees, even if you haven't really worked with them too much in the past, just take a second and think about maybe some challenges that you encountered with student employees, anything that really just kind of comes to mind when you think about challenges. So you probably thought of scheduling, call-outs, accountability, and communication. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about challenges related to these and student employees, specifically related to Falvey Library today. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about our specific challenges, and most of what I'm going to be talking about today is really pre-COVID. Things have changed a little bit this semester. We have way less student employees. We only have about 10 working in the department this semester as opposed to about 40 or 50. It's still something I think that is relevant, hopefully when things get a little bit more back to normal. So the first main challenge that I mentioned that you probably thought of is scheduling. So again, we have about 40 student employees. We have 3 separate department areas that we have to juggle. In the service desk alone, we have over 90 hours of coverage per week that we need to cover. There's a shared Google Calendar that we used to use for scheduling, and we also had a lot of different Excel files to gather student availability, to do schedules. So it all sort of turned out to be a little bit of a mess, a little bit hectic for scheduling. The second challenge that we encountered a lot with student employees was schedule changes. So there were multiple email chains. We do have a listserv that we used to use that a lot more for people asking for shift coverage, people calling out at the last minute. Everything went through all these multiple email chains. And sometimes people didn't use the listserv, they just emailed the individual supervisor, which is part of the second bullet here, the decentralized communication. We had a lot of issues with that. Only certain people knowing about shift changes or people not knowing about them at all because of our decentralized communication. And then updating the shared Google Calendar for schedule changes, especially just for one-off changes. It was a little bit difficult to update sort of on the fly, and we didn't really have the Google Calendar didn't really show us the history of those schedule changes the way we really wanted to see them and add notes and things about the change itself. And our third challenge was inconsistent accountability practices. So as we probably thought of in our brainstorm, we have no call, no show students, students who wouldn't show up for shifts, especially around the holidays. They would, leave early for a break and not tell us they weren't going to come in for their shift. Also had a problem with last minute call-outs, some students being persistently tardy. And not that this necessarily applied to every single student, but it was still a chronic enough problem where we felt like we were dealing with it a lot. And it was just really bogging down staff time and really taking a lot of staff resources dealing with these issues. And related to the inconsistent accountability practices was a lack of overarching department policies. So, one supervisor, for the desk had a different way of dealing with things than maybe the supervisor working with interlibrary loan students. It's easier to make up hours, for if you're coming in for a scanning shift for interlibrary loan as opposed to the service desk where you kind of need to be there at your scheduled time in order to make sure the desk is covered. And again, we do also have that problem of decentralized communication for the inconsistent accountability practices. Again, with the listserv, different people getting the wrong emails, everything was just sort of a little bit of a mess in terms of accountability practices. So I'm going to talk about some solutions that have really helped us overcome these challenges with student employees and have really improved student employee performance and really giving staff a better way to help schedule and overcome these challenges related to student employees. So our first solution is SubItUp. So SubItUp is a scheduling software that has a really cool feature called social scheduling, among other features. So you know, you can add shifts into SubItUp itself, and it's a really great way to keep track of shifts in multiple different areas in the department. And it's a little bit easier to update and sort of get a handle on, especially with the number of students that we have, get a handle on the schedules as opposed to using something like a Google Calendar. So social scheduling, as I mentioned, is really one of the, I'm a really big fan of the social scheduling part of SubItUp. So if a student can't work a shift, they would drop it in SubItUp, and then the shift becomes available. And instead of that student maybe emailing a listserv or emailing other student employees to ask for coverage, an automatic email notification is sent out to other students so they know, hey, this shift is available, you know, Thursday afternoon from 2 to 3 p.m. Is anyone available to cover it? So it takes care of that. It's all automatic. If anyone can pick it up, the replacement picks up the shift, and the shift is covered. So if somebody picks it up, it's covered, we're done. The first person to pick it up gets the shift, and it's just covered. So it really, really cuts down the amount of, the number of emails, the amount of staff time that it takes to update the schedule and everything. So the staff member assigned to certain positions also get notifications when all this is happening. So they see that the shift is dropped and everything. And, you know, we can send out additional reminders to see if anyone can pick things up if it's really far in advance. But it's all very automated. It's all, it all really kind of takes care of itself, which is really, really nice. And it really frees up a lot of staff time. So as I mentioned, so we've got reduced staff intervention. It's a centralized location, which is, again, something we had with Google Calendar, but it's a little bit easier to see all the shifts together, especially with the different like pieces and everything. There's a lot of moving parts. It's really easy to see in the SubItUp software, and we have improved communication between staff, between students, between other staff members, especially with all those email notifications with the SubItUp social scheduling feature. So the rollout we did for SubItUp, so obviously we did some testing and did a trial period and everything with the software. So it did take a little bit of time to get the system all set up. We had to put in the student data, get all the shifts set up and everything. So that took a little bit of time. We also made sure to train all of our staff. I actually led the training efforts for staff and for students. So just doing a demonstration of the software, making sure everybody felt really comfortable with it, especially the students, showing them how to drop the shifts, how to pick shifts up, how to communicate with us if they were having trouble with the software or something like that. So really working with the staff and the students, making sure everyone was really comfortable with it moving forward. And our second solution, even though we have 3 challenges, we only have 2 solutions here. So our second solution was a new accountability system. So I developed a point system that's standardized, that could be applied department-wide. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the system in a second here. We've also got limited excused absences for students. So it's something that students can sort of see, they know what their expectations are. So if they drop a shift, if they can't cover a shift, they know what's going to happen when that happens, if they don't show up for a shift, things like that. They have something standardized, something that applies to the entire department, so they know the consequences of not showing up for work. So the first part of the point system are attendance points. So attendance points are negative in terms of they're bad points. They're points you don't want to get. So if you have a dropped shift, but you can't find anyone to cover that shift, you get 1 point, 1 attendance point. If you are a no call, no show, no coverage request, so if you just don't show up, you don't ask anyone to cover the shift, no drop or anything, you get 2 points. If you are tardy for the shift without calling ahead, or if you leave early without getting approval from the supervisor first, you get 0.5 point. And so there's progressive disciplinary action based on the number of points that you have. So 1 point is a verbal warning, 2 points is a written warning, and usually you try to sit down with the student, to sort of talk about what's going on, why you didn't show up for a shift. 4 points is grounds for termination. So basically, it's new, sort of based that off of the no call, no show points. So if you have 2 no call, no shows, you're just not automatically out, but we're going to take you off the schedule and have a talk about what's going on with your work performance. And another part of this I mentioned on the slide before was limiting students to 3 excused absences per semester. So excused absences are sort of, as we explained to students, sort of like sick days that you would get at a quote unquote real job. So, you have a certain amount of times where we can say, if you drop a shift and you can't find coverage because you're sick, that's fine. You get, deducted 1 excused absence. You don't get an attendance point. As opposed to if you drop a shift and you can't find coverage for an unexcused reason, like you want to go out of town, you want to go to a concert or something, you would not be deducted an excused absence, but you would be instead assigned an attendance point. If you do use up all of your excused absences per semester or all of your sort of sick days, you can get additional excused absences. We just need documentation. So we had some students who were in the band that had to travel with the basketball team, and they had a few instances where they had to travel out of town a lot. The team travels, so we just needed an email from like the band director or something. Like they just forwarded us the documentation that they would be traveling. We didn't need an email directly from the band director, but just something that shows us like, hey, I'm not making this up. I'm actually doing something legitimate that I need an excused absence for. So on the other side of this, we have reward points, and these do not balance each other out. So if you get a reward point, it doesn't automatically knock you back an attendance point. They're 2 separate systems that sort of work in conjunction with each other. So if you pick up 1 shift, you get half a point. If you pick up 1 shift during finals, holidays, breaks, you get a whole point. And again, we sort of have a progressive system here. So if you get 3 points, you get a baked good from the cafe. We buy you that for you using the department morale money. If you have 5 points, you get a beverage from the cafe, so like a coffee or something. 10 points, you get 1 additional excused absence and a department mug. So that really helps, especially if people have a lot of activities going on there. It really helps give them another excused absence without really feeling like they have to really keep an eye out on those. And then 15 points, you get a $10 gift card. So the rollout with the attendance points and the reward points, we actually first implemented it at the service desk to begin with. My role is primarily with the service desk. So when I first developed the point system, we really just applied it to the service desk only. And at first we really only had attendance points to start. I think when we first rolled this out, we actually didn't really even think of the reward point option. We really just wanted to create a better accountability, a standardized accountability system for students. And again, as I mentioned before, it's really important to be at the desk at your assigned shift, at your assigned time. We need coverage. We need a lot of coverage at the service desk, and it's really important that you're there for the shift. So after the first semester of implementing the attendance points at the service desk, we added reward points, and we implemented the entire system department-wide after the first semester because it had improved our attendance a lot. We had a lot of students that were a lot better about communication if they were going to be out for breaks or something, as opposed to students who, again, it was mostly a lot of the issues we had were around breaks and holidays and things. Students being better about communicating, dropping shifts, letting us know ahead of time about certain things. So it really had a positive impact on our student employees. So we rolled it out department-wide and also added that reward points, those reward points after the first semester. So as I mentioned, for our outcomes, we had improved attendance department-wide. So after we rolled it out to the whole department, multiple supervisors were coming up to us, me and my colleague who work at the service desk, saying how much it has improved student employee attendance and communication, and really just glad at the positive change that it really had on the shifts. And staff weren't really left in the lurch as much as we used to be, again, especially around the holidays and finals and things. So it really helped improve student employee attendance. We're also really happy about the reduced staff intervention for shift changes, especially again, with Sub It Up. It was a lot more automated, a lot easier for shifts to get changed, things like that. So it was a lot less headache for us, and it was a lot clearer what the changes were if there weren't any changes to the schedule. This allowed us more time for student training and professional development, so we were able to do a little bit more training sessions with students and really grow their skills, as opposed to spending our time tracking down multiple emails, making shift changes and things like that. We had a lot more time to focus on the student work, which was really nice. And the students related to that were also able to take on a little bit more responsibility. More training equals, they're better able to help patrons with more advanced reference questions at the desk, account questions, things like that. So it was really great to see the changes in our department because of the Sub It Up software and the accountability system. So that's really all I had for today. So I'm with the slide, I have my contact information here, and I've got links to our procedures and documentation for Sub It Up software. So it's just sort of our own documentation for the software and how we really use it. I did include a link to the product website if you do want to check it out yourself. I'm not trying to, push anything or sell it, just, more information if it's something you're interested in. And also a link for our attendance and reward point documentation. So you can kind of see it's a little bit more detailed than what I went through on the slide here. Just a little bit more information and how we work that into our student employee training. And that's it for today. So thank you so much for watching. I look forward to hearing your questions during the live session on October 16th. Thanks for listening and have a great day.